Welcome to Business Talk here on Business Tech. Now, Guardrisk's newest initiative, LaunchPad. Through LaunchPad, Guardrisk hopes to scale up InsurTech businesses and to help them grow and thrive in a very challenging South African market at the moment, as we all know. Just to keep the lights on seems to be a challenge. Here to unpack the launch of LaunchPad is Xolani Nxanga, who is Managing Executive and InsurTech Lead at Guardrisk. Xolani, great to have you on the show. Now, Launchpad is particularly interesting because I've been following the venture capital and private equity space for almost the last 2 decades. And increasingly, what we're seeing is corporates now venturing into what used to be the domain of a typical venture capitalist who would go out and raise a fund and invest in early seed stage businesses, which has, I think, a whole lot of benefits, particularly if it's in an area that's aligned to the corporate. There's lots of synergies here. Just explain what Launchpad consists of specifically.
Thanks, Michael, for having me on your show. It really is a pleasure to be talking to you today. So I think, Michael, let's just start and just answer the question, what is Launchpad? Really, this is our corporate venturing initiative. It's linked to our strategy. It is really about driving innovation in our business. The environment is constantly changing. I think we operate in a digital economy that presents both opportunities and risks. And so we embarked on this initiative to find entrepreneurs that we can invest alongside them and create successful businesses that will address the needs that are now coming up and are becoming quite apparent. Customer needs are changing, customer attitudes are changing. We want to capture these opportunities. New risks are emerging. I'm sure you would have heard about connected cars, connected homes. I think this requires us to look at insurance differently. And then last but not least, I think there's new business models, and these new business models allow us to come up with more robust ways of underwriting, different ways of managing claims. And we're looking to working with entrepreneurs who are passionate about solving these problems and obviously taking advantage of the opportunities.
So what do you see as the main challenges then in the InsurTech industry that Launchpad will help solve for these entrepreneurs?
Michael, I think the patterns are very clear. 70 to 80% of startups, they fail within 5 years. And the patterns that we see is that there's generally a lack of access to distribution or access to clients. So I think that's number one. I think that will kill any business, regardless of how advanced their technology may be. If they cannot sell policies, they just don't have a chance to survive. Secondly, it is access to capital. The insurance business is quite capital intensive. There's regulatory capital. We are well positioned to provide such solutions given our experience in the game. And then there's the expertise, just understanding how to design insurance products, understanding how reinsurance work. And these are not things that, a normal man in the street would understand. But I think having someone like us on the side would certainly be quite invaluable to that venture. And then last but not least, entrepreneurs are quite innovative in finding, for example, open source software. But when you have to actually deploy the product, you have to deploy it in a secure environment that usually requires capital expertise, and we want to be the partners that can then support the entrepreneur to overcome these challenges.
Yeah, so it goes beyond just the capital. It's knowledge, it's networks, it's understanding the industry, it's the back end, it's access to the market. It really, from an insurance perspective, I think makes a lot of sense. Now, you're particularly focusing on working with InsurTech scaleups. Why are these particular organizations your primary target with Launchpad?
So, Michael, we did a pilot last year, and we work with an incubator who was focused on startups. What was very clear there was that startups need a lot of hand holding. And we just had to acknowledge that, we just didn't have the time to be working with pure startups. And therefore, to try and de-risk the whole initiative, we decided to look at scale-ups. And typically, the scale-ups would have been operating for 3 to 4 years. They have strong teams. Would have gone through the stage of product market fit, and they would have probably pivoted once or twice before they actually find their niche market. And I think most importantly, a scale up would have started generating revenue. So this is quite important for us, because we come at a stage where we're able to expose that business to our partners, because there's a solid product in place. Customers have shown an inclination to buy the product, and we can then only support that business and give it access to distribution and provide access to the whole Guardrisk ecosystem.
What do you see as the main benefits? I mean, you've just mentioned two there that the scale ups will get when they join the LaunchPad initiative.
Well, I think the benefit is that working with a partner like us, I think, first of all, it gives credibility to that scale up. It will open doors for the scale up in terms of distribution and finding new avenues and channels for product distribution. It gives that scale up access to our deep insurance expertise, as I mentioned earlier on. I think, Michael, because we've been operating in the industry for so long, and we've got all these networks, we bring insights into that business, and insights which they wouldn't ordinarily have access to or have sight of. And I think that's critical in the success of that business.
And what I find interesting about this venture as well is it's not just yourselves. You committed to working with venture capital investors to fund the LaunchPad initiative. So how will these investors profit from LaunchPad?
I think the main area of focus should be the venture itself, Michael. I think us getting involved in that venture and bringing our deep insurance expertise, I think it just adds another very important dimension when we start talking about strategy for that business, when we start talking about financing that business. We would be bringing in structuring solutions which are not typically known in the VC space. That would obviously give that startup, or the scale up, an advantage in terms of us bringing that expertise and structuring solutions. I think what's also important for the startup is that you now have a partner who is taking a long-term view on that business. That's our approach when it comes to LaunchPad, is that we're going to be there for a long time, because the idea is that whatever solution that we bring into the Guardrisk ecosystem, that it's going to be there for the long term. We're trying to create value here for the founder, for Guardrisk, and for Guardrisk partners. I think having Guardrisk as part of the business and as one of the investors in that business, we really want to make sure that we give this business a serious chance to succeed by bringing everything that we have in our ecosystem.
I think it's that long-term lens that really interests me, because you're focusing here on building a long-term relationship with your scale-up partners. So how do you see the initiative benefiting both yourselves, Guardrisk, and its partners in the long term specifically?
Michael, I think it's important that we understand that the environment is changing at the moment. So the way that we used to do insurance, it has to change. We are operating in a digital environment, and therefore we have to make sure that we are applying the latest and the greatest technology. So I think that's a big benefit for ourselves and for our partners, to make sure that we remain relevant in the markets that we operate. As I mentioned earlier on, there's new risks, so therefore there has to be a new way of thinking and a new way of addressing those risks and managing those risks. I mean, we're now talking about preempting claims rather than paying claims. This requires big data. It requires um, you know, data analytics. We have to bring that to the fore for the benefit of Guardrisk, for the benefit of our partners. I think for the founder, in order to ensure a sustainable business going forward, there's no doubt in our minds that the four critical areas that I mentioned to you, Guardrisk is well positioned to support the founder to ensure that they've got a robust business model, which will not only help them compete in the market, but help them to create a moat around their business, which I think they'll find incredibly valuable.
And I'm sure a big part of what you're going to be doing is meeting and filtering a lot of potential partners over the course of this launch period for you. So how can entrepreneurs or venture capital investors partner with Guardrisk on LaunchPad?
Michael, I think the work that we've done in terms of the pilot, the conversations that we've had with founders, conversations we've had with VCs, it became very clear to us that we have to have a different way of approaching the InsurTech. So we have a dedicated team that is working on LaunchPad. We have created flexible structures that will ensure that when it comes to decision making, we're able to make those decisions as quickly as possible. It really is a different mindset within Guardrisk. And they can contact us on info@grlaunchpad.com, or they can go straight to our website, which is www.grlaunchpad.com. And we're really looking forward to having these conversations with the founders and the venture capital funders.
A very exciting time to be in InsurTech in South Africa. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Business Talk and Business Tech, where we've been discussing Guardrisk's newest initiative, LaunchPad, and it's all about supporting InsurTech scaleups in the South African market. Xolani Nxanga is Managing Executive and InsurTech Lead at Guardrisk, and he's provided us with some valuable insights into how LaunchPad will benefit these organizations. So if you're an entrepreneur or a venture capital investor interested in partnering with Guardrisk on LaunchPad, be sure to get in touch with them to find out more. Thanks for joining us on Business Talk. We look forward to bringing you more business insights in our next episode.